Well, hello everyone. Hello, welcome back. Welcome back. It's been a few days. Looks like my computer crashed. Hope it was wearing its seat belt. Anyways, today we're covering block level elements versus inline elements within HTML. Without further ado, welcome again to the actual channel. Let's get started and make sure we have our Visual Studio Code open in our computer. All right, let me just close out my beautiful face here. And everyone, again, I am Mr. Full Stack. All right, here's my mouse. There we go, very good. Visual Studio Code is opened up to the left, and actually we have it all the way around here. Let's open up an actual file, and we all have that YouTube directory. If you do not, you can open it up anywhere you would like. And let's create a new file by clicking on the new file option here. And we are going to call it, let's say, block verse inline.html. Well, let's make sure we put the elements in there too. You can name this anything you'd like. Of course, it's going to be ending in the .html. All right, so we have block versus inline elements. So we all know what we need to use in order to actually have a bare bones HTML template by using exclamation point or mark. Again, the debate still is on as to whether we're calling it an exclamation mark or an exclamation point. And we're going to hit enter or tab. And let's open up Live Server. Live Server is an extension that we added to Visual Studio here. And you can just type in Live Server. That is also in the previous actual videos. So let's go back to our document, right click on the file and open with Live Server. All right, and it looks like I did not actually set up a default browser here. So let me just copy this. I don't want to use Internet Explorer. I am going to use Chrome. So what I did is I actually just took the actual URL and just pasted it in there. And I'm going to slide that to the left, slide that to the right. And here we go. Now we have our browser open to the left and our working area within Visual Studio Code to the right. And the title here is going to be block versus inline. And we'll see that in our browser to the left. There we go. And let's start out. Let's start out with a block level element, which is going to dedicate its own, it's actually going to demand its own line from left to right. So our first block level element is going to be an H1 element. And within that, I'm just going to type in something simple like gold versus silver. And here we see gold versus silver in the upper left-hand corner. The only thing here is it's a block level element, meaning the entire line from left to right, all of the text within the actual container itself is within the actual context here. So let's see, let's take a look and see exactly what I'm talking about here. So let's add a style here. And normally we would not actually add any style to the actual page itself like this. We would have our own actual file. So let's see here. We are going to select the element by calling the actual H1 tag. So H1. And then we're going to use these curly braces here to actually have our rule, our style rule. Within the style rule, we're going to have a declaration. And that declaration is going to contain an actual property and value. So in this case, it's going to be the property of border. And the value of border is going to be 1 pixel unit. That's the measure that we're using here. We'll talk about more different types of units in future tutorials. So 1 pixel unit, we want it to be solid and black. And so now you can actually see, looks like I'm missing some pieces here. There we are. So now we can actually see the entire line, the entire block. So from left to right, all of this is actually occupied. No other content can actually go to the left or right of that. Okay, so that's what we mean by block level element. If I were to add another block level element, let's say like a paragraph, and I said this is a, well, let's see, we can actually use some fake text. So we can just put lorem and how much of the actual text that we want, let's say 20, and that gives us some default text. Okay, and let's just enter that down here just so we can see the rest of our screen. All right, so lorem text, lorem ipsum, it's always a nice little way to just add some dummy text on there. Again, you can actually add that by just simply typing lorem and the actual amount of text that you want. All right, so now we have a paragraph here. If you notice, it is not to the left or right of the actual H1 element, not at all. It's on its own dedicated line. If we were to add an additional rule to see that, we can go P, which will be the actual selector that we're using here. And then we can actually say, let's add the border and go 1 pixel, solid, and also black. And there it is, from left to right. You can see the actual border around it, around the actual content, is completely from left to right. Nothing to the left, nothing to the right. The entire paragraph is all on one block level element, one line. So now we can, usually we're not going to actually, this is completely the same. So there's no reason to actually have two rules within the same actual properties and values in there. So I'll keep it here. I'll comment it out by pressing Command ? Or Control ? For Windows, and I believe Command ? For Mac. And I'll simply add a comma and the P there. And this way, we can use the actual rule with the H1 and the paragraph. So now we can see, again, they're both on their own separate dedicated lines. I can then add another block level element. Let's say it is the UL. And I'll add a couple of LIs here. Let's say with ABC. And let me just copy that. Okay, so ABC, 1, 2, 3, B, BBD. Okay, now here's another block level element. Let's add that to our actual rule over here. UL. So now the H1, the paragraph, and the UL, all block level elements, all on their separate line from left to right. Even if I move this over a little bit, there's the entire content, even though it's only here and here and here, it's still the actual browser, the actual HTML demands the entire line by itself. Now, let's take a look at some inline elements. So the inline elements itself are going to look like this, and this is where the content is actually in line. So for example, let's start out with an A element for the actual link or the URL. And for this one, I think we actually have some links here already. Some actual pages. No, we don't. Okay. Let's say this is going to go to the bakery.html. And if I were to select that, okay, well, first, where is it actually at on our page? We can't see it because we need to see the actual text. So bakery site. All right, there's our inline element. It looks like it's on an entire different line. It can't be on this line because this is a block level element. But can we put anything next to this inline element? Well, let's put another link here. And that's going to go to, let's say, to the barber. All right, and let's put barber. And we have the text, and there we go. We have barber. And you know what? Let's add another one right next to it. And so if you notice, these are not at all on their own dedicated lines. They're right next to each other. This one's going to be the coin shop. Okay, and let's just put the text, coin shop. All right, and let's go up to our rule here so we can put a border around them and see exactly where the borders lie. So we're going to go with, add the A to that. And if you look at that. And you know what I'll do is I'll take this out just so we can add a little space. And we'll give it a tone rule here. All right, let's say it's an A element. So we're going to select it by using A in our open and close curly brackets and border 1px solid and green. So 1 pixel in width. If we want it at any thicker, we can go to 4 if we would like. And now you can see that the block level elements are on their own complete line from left to right. Okay, but the inline elements are completely in line with each other. Let's add a little space to the right so we can see what else is there. So let's just add a margin, and don't worry about if the CSS rules and properties and values here that you don't understand as of yet. You know, the actual CSS portion where the CSS makes the HTML look super pretty and well structured, that's later on in the series, so you'll be able to click on that. Okay, all right, so margin right, which we're saying here, you know what, let's add a little margin to the right of any of the A elements that we have on the page, and we're just going to use 5 pixels of space to the right. And now you see for the inline elements 1, 2, and 3, they're all in line on the same line, and so there's stuff on the left and stuff on the right. The difference between the block level elements is that they are on their own line from left to right, 100 complete %, and the inline elements are completely next to each other. Okay, and let's see, what else can we add here? Can we add another inline element? I believe we still have a little bit of time, so let's do that. Let's add a small little image to, let's go here. Just go to the next line, and I'll add an image, which is also a inline element. Okay, and I believe our images are within the images directory, and we do have an images directory. Perfect. So let's go images \, and let's go with bird1. Okay, so now, oh, that image is way too big, so let's just make it a little smaller. And you know what, since we did add some style within this, normally we were actually putting them within the actual image, adding the width and the height as an attribute. So you know what, let's actually do that within the style rules here, which again, that we'll be covering the actual how to actually edit the actual image sizes and a long list of CSS properties and values. But for now, since we're seeing it for the first time, we're going to go with any images that we have on the page. So let's use the selector of IMG, and let's give it a width of 100 pixels. And we look at that, there it is. All right, and the height is pretty much set to auto itself. This way, it'll always scale appropriately. So now we have an inline element with 3 inline elements of the actual URL links, and then we have the actual image, which is also an inline element. And for the last inline element that we'll add to the right of the actual image itself, let me just add bird there, and we'll add a span element, which is also an inline element, and hi there. And there we go. Okay, so all of these inline elements here are all in line from left to right. If there's room, then the actual page will say, you know what, let's keep you in line. As far as the block level elements, we have an entire H1 and a paragraph and a UL, and of course, you know, they have their own completely separate line, you know. So how big is this? How important is this? It's huge, because when you're structuring out a page, which we'll do in future videos, you need to be able to say, wait a minute, why is this not actually lining up the way I want it to? Is it a block level? Is it an inline? There is also the inline block, which we'll actually get to at later on in the series. But so you need to be able to actually debug that. Is there a way to make inline or make any of the properties, can you actually change whether or not they're block or inline levels? Absolutely, we can do that within CSS. But today we just wanted to introduce you to that. So that is pretty much it for that. If you have any questions, concerns, or comments, you can feel free to actually leave a comment in the actual comments, or you can email me. You can also subscribe to the channel and hit the like button so you actually know if there's anything else that is in any new material that is out. And other than that, Mr. Stack is out.